man.
Absolutely, man. So it's really great to see you, man. And I'm really appreciative of you spending some time out of your busy day, out of your hectic schedule to just discuss with me here on the Prison to Promise podcast some of the things that you have done and the things that you are doing to achieve success in your life post-incarceration, man. So again, big ups.
No doubt, man. Just learning, man. Just continuing to learn, man. I was just talking to my brother right now, just about because we chops it up, man. Just figuring out different ways, you know.
Yeah.
And we was talking about just this investing, man. You know, just that mindset. You know, spend versus invest. You know, like so we be more on, man, how to invest. So we really into them stocks and stuff, man, options and stuff like that. So we be getting it in, man.
That's dope, man. You know, and you know, I guess stereotypically, you know, Black folks, we just spend money. You know, we got the biggest spending power out of anybody in the United States of America. So that's really impressive to know that you and your brother are spending time figuring out how to make your money grow instead of just giving it away.
Right. Because you're not going to be able to work your way there, man. You got to invest your way there. Like you got to work for the money to invest it, not work for it to spend it, man. You know,
and the work keeps you enslaved. You know?
Absolutely right. Because I was just talking to him. I'm like, man, you know, because he was working 12-hour shifts. And I'm like, man, bro, you was working 7 days a week, 12-hour shifts. And most of those 12 hours, they ain't even had no work for them, but they just wanted them in the building, you know? And I'm like, man, and that keeps you in a place to where you really can't move around, man. You know, so they paying you to keep you out the game, man.
How about that? To keep you out the game.
To keep you
away from your family, keep you away from brothers and sisters that can probably help enlighten you.
Right.
Keep you from investing your bread, whatever it is that you have that you want to do to enhance your life.
Right. Absolutely right, man. You got to be able to identify that, man, and move accordingly. You know?
Absolutely. So, yo, man, why don't you, if you would, brother, you know, maybe tell the people who listen to the Prison to Promise podcast a little bit about yourself, perhaps, you know, your background, where you're from, you know, maybe what city, what state you're from, you know, and you know, maybe how much time you spent behind the wall, man.
No doubt, absolutely, yeah. So, man, I was born in Oberlin, Ohio, man. That's about like 35 minutes west of Cleveland, you know, outside of Cleveland, Ohio, man. So I'm out there in Northeast Ohio. That's where I grew up at. Right now, I'm currently in the Columbus area. You know, that's about 2 hours away from Cleveland.
So you grew up in a rough area, man.
Yeah. So it's just like low income. You know, so it's just low income, you know, and it being that low income, you know, a lot of my peers, we did some of the same things, just getting involved into criminal activity. You know, you just, man, you either sold dope or, you know, you was robbing or something like that, or, you know, you just getting high. Well, either or, one of those.
Unless you had a wicked jump shot.
Or else you had a wicked jump. Absolutely right, man. Like that stuff is as real as it gets, man. You know,
man.
But that's what you seen. So I was 13 years old when I made that decision. My mother, she had got caught up in the early 80s to the crack and whatever may be the case, and she couldn't be there. And she actually got incarcerated. She moved to Tennessee, got incarcerated out there. So she was locked up, and my father raised me and my brother. You know, so that's how we came up. So I came up, man, having my father in the household, but my mother wasn't there. And my grandmother, she was there too as well. So both of my grandmothers, they chipped in.
Right.
You know?
So you had some balance. You had some people there.
Yeah, absolutely. So one grandmother, she was from the South, from Mississippi, and my other grandmother, she was from Cleveland. So then my father and my grandmother moved to Oberlin from Cleveland. So, but my grandmother that was from Cleveland, she was more of, you know, education. You know, that's what she was on. So she graduated from Oberlin College, you know, she was 40 years old. You know, so then that's what I came up under, just having that type of direction as far as education is powerful, you know. So she always been about the community, you know. So so that goes
education background, as well as you had them old school Southern values.
Yeah, absolutely right. So you had you had the mixture, and then you had the work ethic coming from my pops. My pops was just stand-up dude, you know, like his name was respected, you know, so he went and just went to work. He was a janitor at Oberlin College, and you can see he started to separate from his friends because he had me and my brother. So it was just me and my brother. So he separated and just started to do what he needed to do to make sure that we was okay, you know, to the best of his ability. You know, high school dropout, but he was working, and he
poured into you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was able to just watch him and just see, man, how to be, how to move, you know, how to interact with people as a man. Like I used to just watch him, you know, because I used to go everywhere with him. You know, I'd be like, hey, you going to your friend's house? I'm coming, you know, let me go. And he would let me go everywhere.
And you know, just as you saying that, man, I have 2 kids of my own at home, and they're 2 boys. You know, I'm fortunate enough to raise them with my wife. But like you, I was raised in a single parent home, but I didn't have that man to watch. You know, I was watching all these guys in the street, watching these guys on the screen, and getting this misinformation. But at the same time, people poured into me. And so just thinking about what I know about your story, whatever people poured into you, even though you went astray, you had something to bring you back. You had something to return to, something to help redirect you because you knew better.
Absolutely. And that's what it was. That's absolutely right. So I had a core. And you know, and that was everything. I just had a core of, you know, how to ultimately be. So even though I got involved into the streets at 13 years old, that's when I started selling crack. I started selling marijuana first, and then by the time that summer hit, when I was 13 years old, I was selling crack because I said, man, I can make way more money, you know, and I had a desire to be able to live a life that I seen on the television screens and I heard people rap about and, you know, over the radio. And I said that this was my opportunity because that's what we were all told. We were all told this is an opportunity to be able to achieve this level of success, a level of power. I didn't really understand that I was actually giving away my power. I didn't understand that, right? I was like, this is my way. You know,
you don't understand it till you lose it.
Until you realize that you don't have it, right? And then you like, hold up. And that's where I was. So I lasted, Craig, until 19 years old. And 19 years old, I had got pulled over. You know, I was driving left to center, and I had my guns. I had guns in the trunk. I had a 410 sawed-off shotgun in the trunk. I had a 9mm with the serial number scratched off, brand new out the box, right? And that was another charge, right? And then I had individually bags of crack. So then absolutely. And then I had the cash too in the trunk. And the reason why I was rolling with all of that stuff like that in my trunk, because at that time, man, I fell out with all my family, like my father, my grandmother, you know, my other grandmother, like, so I couldn't stay in no places. So I was just staying in hotel rooms, brother, you know, because I didn't have no type of
base foundation.
I ain't had no base foundation. I also ain't had no check stubs and stuff like that. So I'm like, but I was just getting hotels, man. I was in that space because, you know, my father, I had got into it with my stepmom because she had ended up, you know, taking some of my dope, and because she got caught up too in the game. So she took some of my dope, and I found out,
strong, man.
And we went at it. And by us going at it, my father wasn't about to choose me over his wife, you know.
Absolutely.
And he's like, man, and she was like, man, this is crazy. You did this. And I'm like, man, so I had to get out of there. And then I was at my grandmother's house, and my grandmother, she had ended up finding some dope on the floor. I had came in drunk one night, and I went to the bathroom. I used to keep it in my drawers, right? And I forgot it was there or whatever. And it was on the floor in the bathroom, and my grandmother found it, and my nieces was there. And she was so upset that my niece picked up that crack. And she like, man, you got to get out of here. So that's 2. And then my third grandmother, she was actually in Metropolitan. So in Metropolitan housing. And I was staying there, and that was cool until Metropolitan housing got to tripping. They like, man, this brother is like, cars and stuff like that. Cause I had a couple cars, I had a couple, the hood cars, Caprices.
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
Caprice Cutlass,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
rims and stuff
So they
like
knew
that.
you was doing something you wasn't supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. So then Metropolitan Housing Association, they had told my grandmother that she had to clean that up or she was gonna have to get out, right? So then she like, you got to go, brother.
Right, because Granny ain't about to live on the street.
Right, right. So I was just riding around with all these guns in my trunk, right? Like, like crazy, man. But yeah, so then that's how I got pulled over. I got pulled over. They found all of that stuff in my trunk. They gave me a possession of firearms, unlawful possession of a deadly ordinance, a drug trafficking because it was individually bagged,
Yeah.
and possession of drugs. And I bonded out. So I immediately bonded out and I got a lawyer, because I still, I kept my bond money. I kept bond money,
Right. Kept that in the cut because
right, yeah, absolutely. So I bonded out and I got a lawyer. So I got a pretty good lawyer. So I was kind of confident that I was going to like make it out of this whole situation with like probation or something like that. I started to look at the police, the way that they, confiscated the stuff. They just drove my car. So my lawyer was seeing different types of holes in that whole case that he was going to fight. And he had gotten other people off too. So that's why I was kind of confident in him. So I didn't have no license at the time. And by me not having no license, Craig, I was like, man, let me go ahead and put somebody else behind the wheel. So I was just thirsty to put anybody behind the wheel because I still needed to get around to make my drops and stuff.
Right,
so
because before that, you was driving dirty.
Right, absolutely. And then the police knew that I ain't had no license too as well. So I'm like, man, I don't want them to get behind me. They was already knowing me. So I'm like, man, let me go ahead and play it cool and get somebody with license to drive my car, So I had picked this one brother. Now this one brother, he was in the mix, man. And this brother, he was that one that was like, he was in the robbing and stealing. That's what that brother did. And he got and he smoked his weed and got drunk. And that's all he did, right? So, but I was in my head like, man, this brother ain't gonna hit me, but he had hit other brothers just stealing stuff, man. The brother just was stealing. That's what he done. His whole family steals. That's how
what the life do.
His uncle was stealing. His great uncle was stealing. That's what they do. It's this crazy. Right. Their name is synonymous with stealing, right? So that's where he was at. But I was just like, man, the brother already know, because it's like, man, hey, man, I worked the brother over, and he know that, right? So I just felt as if he wouldn't hit me like that. And I ended up dropping my dope, man, at a barbecue. Me and my guys, we shadow boxing and stuff. And when it was time to make that sale, I went into my drawers to get my dope and it wasn't there. And I'm like, oh man. So I started looking for it, right? Because I'm like, I had to drop it. This was some jinky dope too. It was like the dope that I just wanted to get rid of. It was just bad news since I had it. And I was like, man, I'm just trying to get rid of it, right? So after I'm looking for it, I couldn't find it. And he helping me look for it. My brothers is helping me look for it. And he just like, man, it ain't nowhere, Los. This is crazy. So I'm like, that's cool. I'll just go ahead and get back to the stash and re-up, right? So, and just re-up on another pack so I can come out with, right? So I'm like, it was jinky dope anyway. I'm like, as soon as I get rid of this stuff, I'll be cool, right? But I was still looking at him and I'm like, man, this brother messed around. But I ain't want to accuse him because he is my driver and he is looking out for me. And I'm like, man, like this brother, man, he messed around. And if he's seen it, he mess around and be rolling off with it, man. That's what I was thinking, right? But come to find out, Craig, is that, man, this brother, he ended up picking the stuff up and he told somebody that he didn't think was going to tell me. And when he told them, they told me, game time. I said, I'm about to rock and roll. And I moved in on that brother's life. And I said that I wasn't about to go down and do 25 years. I wasn't about to do that type of time. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna rock him, man. So I just was around him still like I didn't know nothing, man. And I was just rocking him to sleep. A couple months go by, man. I caught him, man, out late, man. And I said, I got him, man. It was a beautiful opportunity. told him to get in the car. I said, man, we got beef on the other side. He's like, come on, let's go, let's rock and roll. You know, I ain't messing around, let's get it. I like, no doubt, get in the car. He got in the car, man, and he started to break up. He like, man, I got a kid, man, I can't do that, man. And I'm like, bruh, I'm like, man, what you talking about? I say, man, well, get out and walk. He's like, man, I'll walk home. I say, cool then. So
You ain't about this life, son.
Right. So I just drove a little bit further. So I was just trying to drive as far as I can where it was nobody there, no witnesses, nothing. So I drove all the way out into the country, right, to where it was just back roads. It was nothing but wildlife there, man. I drove out there and I said, you want to walk? Get out and walk. I had a 2-door Caprice. He was in the back seat. My brother was in the front seat. And I'm like, man, I said, get out and walk. And I lift up the seat like that. And when I lift up the seat, he's getting out. He's like, man, this is crazy. You're going to make me walk? I said, get out and walk. He said, this is crazy. And as he getting out, I had the pistol to my side and I put the pistol to the back of his head. And I'm talking about, man, all the way up until then, man, my heart was beating and it was crazy because it's like, man, I'm about to body this brother. Like, this don't feel right. This is somebody that I did grow up with from the sandbox, right?
Yeah.
His family know me and stuff like that. I eat out his refrigerator. Yeah. So I'm like, but this is what this life has drove me to.
That's
and I'm like, man,
and
I felt boxed in, right? I'm like, man, I can't like look at my brothers and say that I am who I am if I let this slide. And I'm like, man, I got to body him. This is what we supposed to do in these situations. But I didn't feel right about it. And I'm gonna be honest, right? I felt like that I was going against my spirit. But I'm like, man, but I just, man, when I pulled the gun out and I had it to the back of his head, he didn't even know. He was just like this. And I put the gun to the back of his head. I just closed my eyes and squeezed the trigger, man. And I'm like, and as soon as it hit him, he just screamed loud, ah! And he said, Lowe shot me. And this brother got to running. And I'm like, this brother's supposed to drop. He got a headshot. How he still moving? Like, and the bullet had ended up coming. It went into his back like that, and it came out of his neck like that, to where it just went in, out, because it was so close. And it had burnt his taste buds. The fire burnt his taste buds. I hit him again with another shot. Pow! Hit him in the back. And he still just kept on running. And he ran off into the night. And I'm like, man, this brother is about to drop. Like, he got hit in the head, he got hit in the back. Ain't no way this brother gonna survive. It ain't nowhere to run to. He's gonna drop, right? The brother ended up finding a dang on log cabin house or something in the middle of nowhere. And knock on the door. And right before he passed out, you know what he said? Carlos shot me. Carlos Christian shot me. Pow! Police was at my door, man. They had my house surrounded, man. You know, and that was it. So then that's how I ended up getting an attempted murder. I never did get out until 2007. That was 97 that I had got incarcerated for that attempted murder. I pled guilty to the attempted murder, possession of drugs, drug trafficking, possession of firearms in February 98. I didn't get out until August 2007.
Oh, yeah, so you did the whole time.
So I did the whole 10. Yeah, so I spent my whole 20s inside of Marion Correctional Institution, brother. But that's when I realized, and I said, it didn't take me long to start to get busy, because I said, man, you know what, man, I'm about to utilize my time, and I'm about to redesign myself. I said to myself, I admit it, man, I'm at failure. I didn't like present myself as if I was winning. I seen people around me presenting themselves as they was winning. They playing cards, they playing dominoes, you know, they got their feet up, they laughing, joking like it's a game. And I'm like, brothers, y'all ain't serious. Like, man, you think you winning? You think you ahead? Like, you're not ahead. And I really felt like I was behind. And I'm like, man, I'm losing. So because I was losing, I just got busy. You know, the first thing I did, I got into scripture. You know, I started listening to T.D. Jakes. You know, that's come from grandma. My down south grandma, you know. So I said, man, let me read something to, man, combat this mentality that I got that put me in this type of place.
How did you know that you was in a jacked up position? Like, what was the message that came to you that said, yo, Los, you done messed up. Los, you need to get yourself together.
Right, like, no doubt.
What was the self-messaging?
neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except for as punishment for a crime where the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist in the United States or any other place subject to
I read that on your website.
The 13th Amendment, brother.
Yeah,
I said, man, I'm a legal slave. And then when I realized, man, Walmart, Target, Hewlett Packard, they actually contracting prisons to get the work done now because they don't have to go to the third world countries to get the work done because you got 2.3 million people that's incarcerated. So I started to feel like food, brother. And when I was in the streets, my whole reason for moving the way that I did was because I wasn't about to be nobody's food. And when I identified myself as food, I say, brother, this is jacked up. I ain't never wanted to be food to nobody. So that's why I moved like I did. So when I realized that I was food to a bigger system and I was actually providing salaries for people to go on vacations and buy motorcycles and things like that, that just made me feel a certain type of way. I'm like, man, hold up. I feel like, I'm gonna tell you straight up, I feel like a sucker. I said, man, I feel like a sucker.
Yeah, man.
I said, I feel like a sucker. Yeah. Like, and I'm sitting up here talking about, man, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm like, man, I'm sitting up here, man, feeding somebody else's family. And my son, who's 3 months old, when I got incarcerated, ain't nobody feeding him. Yeah. So I just started to feel a certain type of way. And that type of so feeling, much like mine. That type of feeling, it just put me in a certain space to be serious and to take advantage of my time. So then that's when I just started to look for different things that I could use to help me to be able to build myself to be who I needed to be. Because who I currently was constructed as, it wasn't who I needed to be. Because I was in a place of being food.
Yeah, man. So how did scripture help reshape your perception of yourself or redirect you? Or was it scripture along with some other things that help redirect you and reshape your understanding of who you are and where you're going?
Right, no doubt. So yeah, that's the foundation with scripture. When I started to understand, like, man, hey, man, only thing you focus on God, right? And it's because before I was focusing on people. Like I was like, man, people, and I'm loyal to people. But now it's like, man, now I only got to be loyal to God because I seen what the loyalty to people was getting me, because people ain't never satisfied. It was people who was split up in the hood, like, Los ain't have to do that. But this is the same thing y'all was telling me needed to be done. This is the movement that we needed to make, but y'all ain't satisfied with my movement, right? So you have people who ain't satisfied, and not only that, but when you go and do that time, man, ain't nobody fighting to get in contact with you. And I realized that. Only time that they get in contact with you is when they come in themselves. And then they like, hey, what up?
Let me get some rice. Let me get some noodles.
Right. Like, you know what I'm saying? But that's when I had the understanding, and I'm like, man, this loyalty to people thing, man, this ain't really working out. And if I'm loyal to God, man, then and loyal to God is basically what I understood was taking on them characteristics, them character traits, like how to move. That's what I was about, like how to move. So that's what I was. So that's what I like, man. How is my word? Making sure that that I treat people as I wanted to be treated. Just operating in love, moving in love. If I'm doing this, I'm doing this out of love. That means I ain't doing this to try to get something back from you. Right. When I had that dude driving, I knew he was messed up. I wasn't trying to give him nothing. I was just trying to use him, right? So because I'm trying to use him, it bit me. And he ended up stealing from me. I didn't have good intentions for that, brother. Right. And I can be honest about that because I didn't have the foundation that I got now. That scripture gave me that foundation on how to move. So now I'll be good. So now somebody can go ahead and I can give somebody something, or I can give somebody some information. They go behind me, turn their back or whatever, and I'll still be good because I didn't do it for them. I did it because of me and what I'm committed to.
Because you know what's the right thing to do.
Because it's the right thing to do. Yeah. So I don't take back doing what's right? Because me doing what's right is ultimately going to get me in the place that I want to be at in life, right? So and that changes the game. So now you don't get to a place of where you that angry at somebody, because everything that I do, my yeah is my yeah and my no is my no, right? That's just what it is. When my no is no, it's because it's no. And my yeah is yeah. It's not going to change based on what you do. I'm gonna say yeah because that's what I believe is the right
that's
thing.
mine.
It doesn't matter what you do.
Right.
Like
I'm
you can
already
do whatever.
convicted.
Right. You're not going to change my yes, brother, because that yes is yes. Like it's yes.
Hey,
So,
brother, you talked about people too, though. You know, you talked about satisfying people or not satisfying them. But at the same time, as human beings, we need other people in our lives.
good.
Who were those people in your life that supported you through the penitentiary and post incarceration?
Right. So my father, he brought my son up. Once he brought my son up about 4 times a year, sometimes 5, and he would always bring him up for my child and I day. We had those 2 times a year, but you couldn't go to the hole or get convicted of a rules infraction board.
Right.
So to be able to participate for my child and I day. So it was my son coming up, so I watched him grow from 3 months to 10, right? So it was my son that helped me to be able to stay on track. It was my father, and then again, my brothers who was there in the car, they was out there, but my one brother, he was my younger, he was my young, when I say brothers, it's like, my brothers, but not blood, but only thing but they my people, right? We choose to do life together. It's a whole
absolutely.
So, but it was the younger guy. He was like really into the game, man. When I came home, he had picked up all of that stuff that I used to talk about, and he took it to another level. And he had Cleveland on lock, So he was doing this thing, man. So when I came home, he was like, "Man, I believe in this stuff. I believe in the dope game." And I was telling him a new way, right? And I'm like, "It's a new way." That stuff got me 10 years, and I did that, man. But he was there to help support. He got me like, I needed the leather and stuff. When I came home, I'm out there because I came to the halfway house in Cleveland. So that's where the halfway house was. So it was cold out there. I had to get the leather. I got released in February, so it was cold in the mud. So he squared me away with clothes, shoes. That was a beautiful thing because I didn't have to like spend my money that I was working for, on that stuff, So that was a beautiful thing to get me stood up. So that's what helped. And then I had a case manager, brother, in the halfway house who was also there. And that case manager had just seen how determined I was to get employed. And he had hooked me up with one of his friends who was an employer on the west side of Cleveland. And I went over there and they finally gave me a job because people was looking at that background. They like, brother, you look kind of scary. I'm like, man, I'm the good brother. You know?
But brother, why didn't you go back to the same thing? Why didn't you go back to carrying the pistol and toting the pumps?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I had already understood that wasn't going to get me to a place of victory. I never was okay with losing. I don't like losing, man. Like losing is not me. And if I looked at it and I said, man, boom, me getting caught with this stuff or selling dope again is going to put me in a losing situation. I ain't that type of dude that's just gonna be okay with just accepting that. I'm looking for ways to win. Everything that I do, that's just my spirit. It's just, I got a victorious spirit. I must win. I don't care if it takes 10 years. I must win. I must win. And if I see that it's a losing situation, brother, you ain't got to tell me nothing else. When I came home, man, I got that job. I'm working for $6.85 an hour, minimum wage. I worked that stuff like it was $40 an hour.
Yes, sir.
And the less you get paid, the harder you work.
Yes,
and I
sir.
see my guy, he was staying on the lake. That brother was living it up. He was looking good, but I'm like, man, I got to get busy, man, And I worked that job, man. But I said that I wasn't going back to that space where I was a legal slave, man. I done made it to Pennsylvania, brother. I done got out of Dorchester County, Maryland.
You done broke the Mason-Dixon.
Ain't no doubt, man. I done crossed that line, man. Like, so I'm there. So that's what made me not go back because I already knew that it was a losing situation.
So what are you doing nowadays, brother? I read a little bit about what you're doing, But you know, one of the things that I saw is that you're working on some parent-child relationship stuff. You know, maybe if you could talk just briefly about the importance of, you know, parent-child relationship focus and how hell is paradise as it relates to relationships.
Oh yeah. A strong relationship is paradise. Weak relationships are hell. So I've been teaching parenting classes as a facilitator in Ohio since 2013,
Oh,
and
wow.
just teaching how to establish strong relationships with our children. I'm the father of 3 children. I got 3 children's mothers. I got shared parenting plans with all of my children.
Wow.
I got my son, my 25, he's 25, he's gone, he's doing his thing.
Yeah, he's a grown man now.
Like grown man. But I got my 13-year-old, he actually lives with me. So he does 5 days with me. He go to his mom on the weekends. I got my daughter, because I got 3 children's mothers, right? So my daughter, we alternate weeks with me and the mother. We alternate weeks. So I got her week on, week off. So I'm full-time dad. So the main thing that I teach is how to strengthen that relationship with your children so you can get that influence.
Absolutely.
That's what's important, is to have the influence. And if you have a negative relationship with your children, then you can say all the things that you want to say. You could try to give them all the things that you want to give them, but they're going to reject what you have to give them because they just don't like you. You don't get the influence just because you are dad.
Right.
You get the influence because you have a positive relationship.
Yeah.
You cannot give them what you want to give them. You cannot give them what you believe that they should have without supporting it with that positive relationship.
And you know, that makes me think about restorative justice, you know, where restorative justice talks about, you know, violations of relationships won't happen as much if there's a strong relationship there. You know, when you have a strong relationship, then you have a better opportunity to, as you mentioned, influence the other person.
Absolutely right. Because you got to be intentional, Craig. You got to be intentional with what you're doing. So often we do this stuff without no type of education, and we just go out there and do it. So it's people who study human, like the way that the human being operate, like philosophy, you know, like understanding the mind, you know, and it's things that we do in a relationship that creates the barriers, but we continue to do them because we don't understand that it's actually creating the barrier, you know? So, so when you know, you do different. So then that's what I teach.
Absolutely. The old timers used to talk about, if you know better, you do better.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
So what are some things, Brother Los, what are some things that other brothers who've been in our situations can do? And I ask this as a means of maybe closing out, because I know we got limited time left on this, but what are some things that other brothers can do to increase their relationships and increase perhaps maybe their knowledge of themselves, to understand where they've gone wrong and get themselves back on track?
Yeah, no doubt. So you got to digest different content. You know, you got to digest different content. Like, it's not just going to happen just because. You got to work for it. You got to go and develop it. You got to make it happen. So I read, brother, like that's something that I wasn't doing before. But I understood that successful people read, and I'm like, man, well, let me start to read. And I don't.
If I could interject, man, it just makes me think about what Busta Rhymes said in one of his songs. He said, "If you need more information, homeboy, you just read."
Right, like that's what I'm saying. But it's like, but it's not something that's so exciting, but it's necessary, right? My vocabulary improves because of my reading, my knowledge, like I'm getting ideas. I've written 3 books, and I tell people, I say, man, these 3 books that I've written, that's the game. Like I give you A, B to C, how to get it done. I'm breaking it down in the book, man. This is how you establish your credit. This is where you go to get your first credit card. This is who you get it with. This is how you go ahead and get a shared parenting plan without no lawyer, no filing fees.
If heads wanted to find your book, how can they find it?
Yeah, absolutely. On the website, startswithin.com.
Okay.
Startswithin.com. Absolutely. Or just or inbox me, whatever, man. But it's on the website.
Right. Also, so to inbox you, how do they find you?
Yeah, inbox me on my handle is Carlos Christian. Carlos M. Christian. M as in Marcellus. Coming from Cassius Marcellus Clay. So yeah, absolutely. Man, my whole name is like revolution, man. That's why I am the way that I am. Carlos comes from John Carlos, the brother who put the fist up in the '68 Olympics. So when my father named me, he named me in that way, man. So
Yeah.
then the work that I'm doing, going inside of the prisons, the way that I do, it's game changing. You know, like,
Revolutionary.
it's revolutionary, brother. Like we pulling people credit reports inside of prison. I'm
Yeah.
talking about pulling people credit reports and then repairing, showing them, not like showing them how to do it. That's what it's all about, empowerment, like teaching people how to function in society so you don't come back out here trying to function in the underworld and get incarcerated again. And not only you get incarcerated, but your children end up getting incarcerated because you teaching them that same poisonous mentality that you've been operating off of, that's been stripping the quality of your life. Right?
Absolutely.
So now it's like, man, let's put medicine in brothers. So when they go ahead and interact with their children, they affect their children, not infect their children.
Yes, sir.
Game time, man. Like this stuff is strategic, brother.
Yes,
so when
sir.
I go up in there, I say, brother, this is my responsibility. You know, this is my responsibility because when your children interact with my children, when they become older and it's a possibility, I want it to be a conversation, not a confrontation, because you actually raised them the right way, right? So me helping my brother is helping myself. So that's why
helping the community.
It's helping the community that I'ma live in. Like this is like, I don't get that. I can't stay clean in a dirty tub. I gotta clean the tub to be able to stay clean.
Absolutely.
So that idea of us staying clean in a dirty tub is just ridiculous. It's foolish.
Wow.
So then that's why I work so hard the way that I do. Brother, you know, it was COs that said, man, you know what, Carlos, man, what you got this inmate, they told one of the wardens, man, how you got the inmate coming in here, getting cut in the staff barbershop. This is when I was out for 7 years. And they said, man, he ain't no inmate, man, this brother been out for 7 years. And the person asked me, he said, don't that make you mad? And I said, it don't make me mad. As long as I can come in here and continue to implement this programming, I don't care what the heck they call me, because I already know who I am. Like, I don't need nobody to stroke my ego, none of that. Like,
and our work is to save souls, to save lives.
That's it.
Brothers salvage their greatness.
That's it. That's it. And we getting it done, Craig. Like we graduated 5-year-long classes because the program is a year long. We graduated 5-year-long classes, man, inside of the prison. We cover 5 modules with a group of 20 individuals each year. Parenting for 8 weeks, cognitive behavior therapy for 8 weeks, financial literacy for 8 weeks, employment readiness for 12 weeks, and then small business and entrepreneurship for 12 weeks. I contract professors and other experts in their field to teach that curricula. And I come in along with them every week, even though they switch out on the different modules of different professors, they see my face every single week, right?
Like, messenger.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So we getting it done, man.
So Los, you know, in the interest of time, and I want us to stay in touch, man, because I'm loving your energy. I'm loving what you're doing. And I want to help continue to promote what you're doing on my end. But if we could take your story or your life or your experience and capture it in the caption or title, what would that be?
Yeah, she's. I guess it would just be, man, turn the penitentiary on his head, stand the community on his feet, brother. Straight up, because I'm on that mission right there.
Yes, indeed.
Like, by turning that mentality that gets people incarcerated on his head and stand the mentality that puts us in these houses and being able to live life the way that we live life, put that mentality on his feet, man.
Dope,
That's
man.
how we gonna get it done.
Dope. Yo, man, I appreciate your time. This has been high-powered, energy-packed, and I know the listeners are gonna love this.
No doubt.
Pick you up, let you know when it's dropping. It'll probably drop next week. You know what I mean? I gotta get
you charged up, brother. Like,
absolutely, you got me charged up, yo.
Charged up.
You heard me?
Absolutely, man.
Absolutely. So, yo, I'm gonna call it a wrap.